Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. My name is Sweta Polat, and I'll be moderating our panel this morning. We're asking all of our guests to have their videos and mics turned up throughout the session. But if you have any questions, please send them directly to me via the chat, and we'll spare some time at the end for a Q&A session. So the purpose of our panel today is to briefly explore the cultural and political barriers to the economic empowerment of women in Turkey. We'll be hearing about some recent economic, social, and political developments, and we'll also be listening to the firsthand experiences of some women. So first, we will be hearing from Kezban Karagöz. She's a Turkish journalist with a PhD from Istanbul University's College of Journalism. She has previously worked in advertising as a script editor and a project editor for culture, arts, and corporate communications. In 2017, she began lecturing at the Yeni Yüzyıl University in the Department of New Media and Journalism as an assistant professor. Currently, she provides consulting services to organizations regarding influencer communication, fighting post-truth publications, and content creation for civil society. As a member of the International Federation of Journalists, Karagöz also writes opinion and news pieces for Turkey's Agos newspaper. Please welcome Ms. Karagöz.
Thank you, El. And I'm so happy now I'm with you and others. First of all, I will talk about in the Turkey same cases and the same graphics about the woman and maybe loyalty and some cultural barriers for the woman. I want to share the same graphics, the knowledge. And later, I want to give opportunities, maybe some projects, some opportunities project, and maybe civil organization project. And the last of all, and I want to share a little part of my life is the history, my mother history, and later the finish. A little, yeah, so short, maybe. Yeah, PowerPoint. I want to share the PowerPoint. Is this available now?
You should be able to share.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there. Yeah, there. Yes. Yes. And yeah. This economic development of the woman in Turkey. Obstacles and opportunities. But the first of all is a little talk about the obstacles in the maybe graphics. Yeah, this is come from is the poverty social program assessment is the derin yoksulluk ağı. You know, I don't know the name. This is the come from this report and the latest report. After the women's poverty facts in the Turkey, and 1/4 of the homeless women become the homeless due to the domestic violence, and the women are and the 55% more and is the 35% more likely than men to live in the poverty. And when comparing income, the worldwide women for the same job are paid the 24% less than men, and the women undertake at the least twice as many unpaid care work and in a year, and the average cost in the cost of unrecruited caregiver in the 10 million trillion. And the woman lives worldwide, but paid and the unpaid labor is taken into account as maybe it's a big problem is the unpaid generally works is because of the is a lot of women is the work as the unpaid work generally is the home wife lifestyle. This is the unpaid work generally. A lot of women is the blame at home, but the house blame because of the is the cleaning, baby care. A lot of job is the unpaid. And a very big problem for the generally woman in the Turkey. And she works, this is the important things, that 4 years longer than a man during his lifetime. 4 years because of, the reasons about to maybe talk about that later. And the 1/6 of household experience multi-dimensional poverty are single parents women. Again, the single parents woman is the much empowered in the lifestyle, in the life, and again is the 2/3 of household living is the multidimensional poverty, do not have a basic education, and there are no cultivated women or girls. And I want to share a graphic in there. This graphic is important in the status of the individual at the last job by gender. Gender is a big problem in the Turkey generally, not only of the the economical status. Sometimes, as you look at this graphics, is the man and the woman. The man is the orange, the woman is the the purple, and this in the gender status words is the first of all, the man is the 61 and the woman 37. And the other is we say that the yearly is the daily works. Generally, daily works is the equal like a man. But is the daily job is an unsafe job sometimes. Maybe today is you can go to the work, but other days is tomorrow, maybe not. This is a so big risk. You can never get a plane at a life. And again, and the own job again is is the only 6%. And but man, yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Can you move forward the slides? We don't see the graphic. We're still on the first title slide right now.
Yeah. How?
Can you press? Yes. Can you move to the next slides?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
And the unpaid family worker is the important that. Yeah. And you can see that people is in the man and the woman differences. The man and the unpaid family worker only 2%, but woman 20%, no 30%. You can see that, and this week's maybe again the precarious job is a problem for the woman generally. This is a very big woman problem in the Turkey, and again this links in there. Maybe later they shared this maybe link because I think so that is a very important thing in there. Generally, annually they share the report about the woman poverty. This and the single woman make up and the 21% of household, and again while the 50% women are illiterate, generally, and this rate is the 42 for men generally. Education is again, and this is the important things. Women are not working. Is the 75 of women and they are not working, but same as the only is the 18% in the daily work is the man. Is the regular, the regular work is the important, and the regular work is 5% in the regular work at the work as the woman, only 5%. Only 5% woman is they can take a plan about the life, about maybe children. I don't know, maybe about the home. I don't know. And this is important. Again, the reason why 52% of women don't work is a child care. Again, while non-working men, only 1% do not work for child care. And this is a very big problem. Again, the women struggling with the poverty. At the generally is the coronavirus. Is the reason is again the high, and the woman and the child marriage is a big problem in the Turkey now. Again, especially the Roma people, Roma girls, they continue the child's marriage. And the marriage at a young age for economic reason. because of the generally the poverty family, for the poverty family is maybe sometimes the solution as a child, married, and they can't access education right.
Slide'ınız gözükmüyor. Yani şu an hala ilk slide'da. Onu indirebilir miyiz?
Fakat niye gözükmüyor acaba?
Yani gözüküyor ama sadece hala ilk slide'da. Başka slide'lara geçtiniz mi?
Geçtim ve paylaşıyorum. Şu an
Maybe if you could click the slide, click number 2 or click number 3, it might move.
Yeah. This görünüyor mu?
Unfortunately, we can't see. Can you stop sharing and start sharing again?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll work right now.
Yeah. Az evvel. Yeah. Şu an görüyor musunuz?
Yes, now we can. Now we can see.
Yeah, peki,
Great.
yeah. Now?
Yes, now it works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Is the now? Yeah. And the education right is the now is the especially is the economical degree is important because of a lot of girls is they can't access education right now, especially these days the Roma girls and the Syrian girls, refugee girls. Again, continue with this is the especially the Corona time is the so high because of the economical reasons. Yeah, and a lot of girls is didn't go to the school and they not come back to school again. Yeah, and sometimes the same problem in a lot of women is unable to work due to the maintenance load, childcare, elderly person care, housework, is it cooking, sometimes the clean, a lot of reasons, and they're unable to access health service and the contraceptives and the menstrual products. Again, maybe the 2 months ago is the campaign is the orchids is the so high, is a lot of women can't get the orchids. But this is is the woman health is important, and they can't access justice when exposed to the violence. This is again the important, and this is some visual things is the political Islam problems is the but is what capitalism creates. How is in the face of the poverty, and the women are at the forefront of the segments that most apply to social helps. Is the social helps like a tool for the political Islam. Yeah, and the social helps aim to manage the poverty, not to the end poverty. They manage the poverty now. Generally, women poverty, especially because the woman is the sometimes the help for the political situation, and the instant solution, long-term solution, permanent generally, because of the maybe woman go to the job. I don't know. This is a good reason for the people, for the woman, but generally not. Is that they give a help, but this is the connection sometimes for the woman. You look at this queue, at all times a woman will be there, a lot of time. And again, political Islam depends on the poverty. Again, sometimes they give names. We will test you with the hunger, sometimes. And do not rebel against the poverty and the hunger, be patient servant from Diyanet, generally. And again, is the economical problem is from faith and they must be patient. Should be asked why, however, and the budget is not shared equally in Turkey, generally, They don't want to listen for the why, generally, from the woman, from a generally public in the sphere. Yeah. And again, Sam, and share equally And the economical problems is a from paid and the must be paid. And they should be asked why, however, budget is not shared equally. This is important. And the political Islam and obstacle to the existence of the women are as equal citizens with the men in social life. And the second, it restricts women's access to scientific education. It sets a barrier for girls' access to school and education. Generally, you know, is the boys can easily go to the school and then they get education, but for children, girls, is not. And unfortunately not, because it's the, you know, maybe we have a cultural barriers for the girl children, yeah. And the third is important. And the political Islam hides the exploitation of the woman's labor under ethic and the reactionary veil. How? It's the man's duty to make a living, not the woman's. Women don't have to work. Why? This is still like this is a Turkey. Is a this in general vibe of political still. Women also adopt it, and the TV series in the media also fit this. And you look the Turkey soap opera. The all time is the rich man. You know why all time is the rich boss man, not women generally. And the economically weak women are helpless in a case of the violence attack. Yeah, and the fitrat is the important things I think. And they use the fitrats, you know, generally in these days is the this job is not convenient, not available for women. But why? Because this is not fitrat generally. And on top of the capital labor, contradiction work accidents are said to be fitrat, who pass over the heavy exploitation or informal work and subcontracting with the common religious practice between the worker and the employer. You know, as the out of time. And the ethic and the reactionary veil covers the abundance and the gratitude. And the job subtables for the their disposition are also considered appropriate for women. Say that generally this is not appropriate for women. There's a reason out of time, but this reason is not scientific. Yeah. And the fourth, this is important again, political Islam excludes women workers from social life. But how is, I give a, yeah, maybe it's important things. The home-based work for women from Diyanet. You know, I don't know. And it has been argued that Diyanet say that generally, philosophy of I can have a children and a career will push women to burnout syndrome. Diyanet say that. But why only women to burnout syndrome? Why not in the man or the dad as the only moms because of? And they have too many daily working hours. This is a capitalist problem. You know, why out of people working hours is there? Because of the limited hours we have to go to work, not unlimited hours. And again, having to work at the night, again, the capitalist. And on the weekends, cause employees to be unable to engage in the activities with their family. Their family, but only woman family, mom family, but not man family. But I don't know how it is. And again, giving a woman opportunities to work a shorter periods of time or home-based will be beneficial for them to fulfill their irreplaceable duties in the family. This is, you can look the vision, come from the Diyanet, come from the Diyanet Center to say that. And I want to give a share my stories in there. This is a Greece. And when can go to the Greece, and I was a little shocked because generally as the children playground, all time you can saw as a man and a dad, not like the Turkey. And this you can look to this picture. Yeah, in the Greece, the main places in the Europe, and the men are also active in the children care, child care, and the domestic work again, at the homework, you know. And you can see very few fathers in the parks. Is not like the Turkey. And again, this is a market. You can see that this woman, out of time, you can see the woman at the street, at the bazaar generally. But in the Turkey, differently, and generally, yeah, this sales market is the man, you know. Again, I want to share this picture. Yeah, again, you can look at this woman at the bazaar, organize everything is there. Yeah, in the street again, the woman, and this is, and you know, is the I don't know the English. Yeah, the cleaning work in the street generally. This is a woman. You can look. They use the dry again, not only cleaning. And the all time you can look you can see the woman at the street, at the life, at the social life. Again, you can look. And I want to share this maybe. Again, you look the motorbike career at the street. You know, after the coronavirus, a lot of people, you know, fired job, but is the new way open with the self-service, like a service the meal. This is about in the Greece, in the sometimes the e-food. In the Turkey, I don't know, yemek sepeti, you like, you know. And in the Turkey, yemek sepeti career, generally man, all-time man. I don't know, I can't see a woman because it's not safety. This is not safety, yeah. But in the European countries, generally, it's a safety for the woman is a career. And again, the problem listens again sometimes. Is the woman listens percentage hours, while the rate male drivers was this, yeah, 81%. This is man generally, and the rate of the woman was, and this is last report, yeah, this year report, and only again 90%. This is a barrier for the woman. Yeah, and this is the important things again. The home about you can see that this yeah, okay. Time spent doing housework. You can see there in the I little things the big differences. India, Turkey, Japan, and the India man 90 hours, and again the woman 298, and the Turkey man is the only 21, and the woman 281 hours. This is so big, enormous big differences. Again, the Japan and the 24 hours a man, and the 199 and the man. The same things the three countries. What is culture? Cultural things, yeah. Because of the gender, again, important the Japan, India, and the Turkey. So big differences. And the PS, women in the high economic group have the opportunity to have paid housework and child care. It hurts him space for his own play.
And I have to interrupt one more time. Could you wrap up in 2 minutes because we're running low on time?
Yeah. And they usually educate women with her fixed income. And they continue, how many minutes?
In 2.
Oh, God. Sorry. And I would share this. And the woman and man, here that regular amount. And I don't want the kids same things, but she will change her not now. Yeah, what do you want? Again, Excuse me, doctor. Excuse me, nurse. And again, gold digger, digger, and the successful man is the same thing, but. And maybe something is the last time is the social support programs should be implemented to prevent children from the leaving education. Again, and for the single parents, for especially women, economical is the social support important. Again, child care support may be provided for the woman. I want a good experience in the Turkey. This is a KEDEV, the KEDEV, very big project in the Turkey for the women's empowerment project. The KEDEV get the jobs, the women handmade jobs. They sell for the Nahil and the other maybe corporate companies. The share in there. And this is important. And this is, again, the opportunities for the woman. The woman corporate is important. And I want, no.
Thank you, Ms. Karagöz. I think stopped sharing the slides.
The last time is this is my, finish. This is my mother. Yeah, you look to my mother the first day at the nurse. My mother, story is there. My mother was stayed in the dormitory and the scholarship in there, and the cultural reason is is a big barrier. But later opened the way after my mother is the first woman in our family. And again, my children in there is that I have 3 sons, and I did my master and a doctorate and the PhD with my children because is my family is the giver generally is the help. This is my dad in there. This photo is my doctoral dissertation is the interview. My father is looking after my sons at the campus. This is my story. And otherwise, many people say that, why are you studying? Look at your children. It's opened up my husband and my own family culture support my education. They also believe that I was not economical free. And they think about.
Thank you, Ms. Karagöz. As you were speaking, somebody actually commented in the YouTube live stream, and I think it's a really important comment. They said that this is a woman who is commenting. She was told that as she was working in Turkey, she was blamed for being the reason of unemployment rates because a man told her that if she stopped working, a man that actually needed the job could take the job. I also appreciated the points that you made about the intersection of capitalism and sexism and how it worsens the crisis in Turkey. Now we'll be moving on to Bahriye Ago. She's a sophomore at Emory University studying neuroscience and English on the pre-med track. As a first-generation immigrant from Turkey, she's invested in learning and contributing to women's issues in the country. In her local community, Ago provides mentorship for middle school students, and outside of school, she enjoys a variety of arts, such as making and selling jewelry for her online business. Ms. Ago, I will share the PowerPoint for you, and you can get started. Visible?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. As we know, women across the globe face social and political obstacles to their full and equal participation in the labor force. And what these obstacles look like differs according to the national context. So today I will be talking about this topic with regard to Turkey. Go ahead. Movements for gender equity in Turkey face an uphill struggle. Currently, the country is ranked 133rd out of 156 nations in the 2021 Gender Gap Index, which analyzes gender-based disparities in access to resources and opportunities. And the patriarchal nature of the Turkish culture is mirrored in this increasingly dictatorial political climate, which poses significant obstacles to the realization of economic empowerment. The political leadership in the country, which is currently headed by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, not only has no respect for the social, political, or economic rights of women, but it also worsens existing gender issues. For example, the General Directorate of Women's Status and Problems, which was formed in 1991 to monitor gender equality, was dismantled under the regime in 2011 and replaced by the Ministry of Family and Social Policies. In the present moment, Turkish women are battling a femicide and sexual violence epidemic, which plagues their workplace, home, and public spaces. In the face of this daily brutality, the regime offers only leniency for rapists and murderers who get sentence reduction for good conduct. And in many cases, good conduct is simply appearing to repent, wearing a tie to court, or alleging that their masculine honor was infringed upon. We can go ahead. While there are such complex political issues that make economic empowerment difficult, there are other factors that may ease this issue. So, for example, a 2018 study reported that increased urbanization can empower Turkish women by exposing them to higher education and better job opportunities. Notably, one respondent in the study commented, she said, "2 of my cousins had to drop out of school and stay home after high school when they were in the town. When the whole family moved to Ankara, which is the capital of Turkey, they started working and they found their education to be insufficient, and as a result, they completed their education." However, the study found that even though the respondents were pleased with their economic gains, they felt uncomfortable with the male-dominated work environment. They emphasized that gender disparity exists in every aspect of their jobs, and some mentioned that women are not given administrative responsibilities and that gender stereotypes and biases permeate the workplace. The study participants also mentioned that women had to fight to be taken seriously and to be heard at work, even if they were more educated or qualified than their male counterparts. One commenter said, "My biggest problem in the workforce is that women are still seen as second-class citizens, no matter what our education level is. There are still men who are offended by getting orders from women. So the function of the workplace in facilitating economic gains is hindered." We can go ahead. A second problem that became apparent was the difficulty that respondents felt in having to juggle domestic tasks with childcare, with work commitments. They indicated that their husbands do not contribute at home equally. And similarly, working mothers commented that their employers did not provide adequate and accessible childcare services. In Turkey, companies that employ more than 150 women are required to provide daycare services, but this may act as a deterrent to hiring women as it increases costs for the employer. And if daycare was offered as a public service by the government, it would significantly alleviate the stress of working mothers. The government does offer some services to working mothers, but it is not nearly enough. For example, there was a joint project with the European Union where the state was supposed to cover babysitting costs for working women. However, the project is implemented only in a few big cities. And for working mothers, the most expansive provider of financial aid is the National Social Security Institution. To be eligible for the benefits, the person must have at least 90 days of insured employment. So as a result, there is no support element for mothers who do not have insurance. For example, there are many people in Turkey who are unlawfully stripped of their jobs and deliberately left out of work due to their political alignment. In these families, there is no caregiver fee, no daycare support, or any other additional salary that would support the woman's work. While these are problems that occur outside the workplace, they impede women's economic empowerment by forcing them to make a choice between work and family. And so having a better degree and a better paying job doesn't immediately equalize women's standing with men. Even though these characteristics make these women better off than women who do not have these advantages, patriarchy still exists in their daily lives, both at work and at home. Go ahead. Turkish women have also been deeply disappointed by the state's abrupt withdrawal, this time last year, from the landmark Istanbul Convention, which was a Europe-wide legal framework to tackle, prevent, and prosecute violence against women. I believe Ms. Kubra mentioned this in her presentation as well. Advocacy organizations for women were not at all consulted in this decision, and the overwhelming support for the convention was purposefully ignored. The convention was particularly important in that it placed the obligation of securing gender equality and preventing violence directly on the state. Income inequality, unpaid maternity leave, and sexual harassment at work have been major crises experienced by female workers, and the convention had the potential to resolve at least some of these inequities. One example is that women who experience violence in the workplace would have been provided comprehensive financial support and protection by the state. Under Article 20, the victim would have had access to services facilitating their recovery, and these provisions would have included mental health services in addition to economic support for housing and aid during the job search. Under Article 30, the victim would have been able to seek compensation from the perpetrator, and under Article 53, the government would have been responsible for the cost of the victim's continued physical protection. As a result, further harm would have been avoided without risking the financial stability of women. Women would have been free to leave abusive work environments without anxiety about the resulting economic hardship, and they would have felt the financial, legal, and moral backing of the state. Thus, the withdrawal from the convention has increased the vulnerability of women. Go ahead. Perhaps one of the most recent political developments leading to the decay of economic empowerment Turkish women had achieved is the Erdogan regime's persecution of all dissidents. In this regard, it's important to mention the series of decree laws passed by the president during his twice lengthened state of emergency. This is known colloquially as KHK or KHK in Turkish. In Turkey, these decrees have been used to dismiss from the workforce both civil servants and private citizens. The number of those dismissed, according to a 2020 news report, was upwards of 110,000 people. These people are essentially boycotted from work, particularly in the public sector, and cannot attain higher education or renew their licenses to practice their jobs. They are denied their pension or scholarships, and they face total isolation because of the stigma of a KHK label. A KHK status has had palpable consequences for women, especially when we take into account Turkey's history. While much progress had been made in gender parity in higher education, many girls living in rural areas or of lower socioeconomic positions have comparatively low educational attainment and are relegated to roles within the home as mothers and housewives. For many, escaping their ascribed statuses as homemakers rests on their ability to achieve economic independence, without which they are reliant on their families or spouses for subsistence. And it is exactly this crucial economic independence, a fundamental tether to gender equality, that a KHK status has assaulted. 11 women's associations were closed down under this state of emergency. There are currently 44 female journalists subjected to police violence and 13 detained while covering events in the field in the first half of 2021, as stated by the Coalition for Women in Journalism. According to the Women Coalition's numbers, 1/3 of the 226 students whose overseas scholarships have been canceled are women. 860 of 4,811 academics who were dismissed from universities are women. The figures by the Confederation of Public Employees Trade Unions show that women constituted at least 23% of over 110,000 public employees who were dismissed by the decree laws. By way of these dismissals, the economic freedom of women who had struggled for years to gain their independence has been taken from their hands. As they are identified as terrorists and traitors to their country, they also face symbolic and even sometimes physical violence, as well as social exclusion. The house becomes a place of confinement for these women who used to have an active working and social life before their dismissal. Go ahead. Speaking to Güven News, Yurda Gül Şahin Demir put it best. She says, in our society, if you do not have economic freedom and you are a woman, you must abide by the social expectations of being a housewife. Being dismissed from work via KHK has pushed us into the arms of stereotypical societal roles of womanhood that the patriarchy uses to cage us. We have been forced to take care of the kids at home, do housework, and be deprived of economic freedom. In this sense, the struggle against KHK is simultaneously a struggle against the patriarchy. These testimonials prove that even when citizens are being targeted equally on a political basis, there is an increased vulnerability along the axis of gender. Barred from finding work, many women have had to transition to more precarious forms of labor. Some have begun to make handmade goods and sell them to their friends at home and abroad. Others have begun working in local bazaars, while a more unfortunate portion of women have become domestic workers, making a wage, but relegated to a position which they had sought to avoid through education. And this is particularly dangerous because domestic work is often hidden, is not as well regulated, and it is a breeding ground for potential abuse. And in this regard, I want to give the example of a woman we interviewed for this panel. She wished to stay anonymous. She had been a teacher for over 20 years of experience. She describes herself as knowing 3 languages and having a graduate degree. During the interview, she expressed her dismay at losing the rewards for all her hard work, seemingly overnight, and in the eyes of employers as having less worth than a high school graduate. For 3 years, this woman and her 2 children had no choice but to live in a single room at her mother's house. The interviewee told us that one of her most hurtful experiences was applying to be a live-in caretaker for a young girl from a rich family. And in the end, the family basically told her that they were afraid of being associated with her and that they would instead hire a high school graduate instead of her. And for the remainder of that time, she lived in Turkey before fleeing the country. She worked as a maid at several homes, and she also made handmade crafts. Another woman we interviewed had a similar story. While she had previously been employed as a nurse, she was arrested for political reasons and she lost her job. After her release from jail and while she appealed her case, she struggled to find any work. In fact, many hospitals explicitly told her that they empathized with her situation, but it was just, again, too risky for them to be associated with her. In fact, one hospital even told her that nobody would hire her. And soon one workplace said that they would call her to work in at night, unofficially and in an unregistered manner. She would be paid at the end of her shifts. And while this arrangement allowed her to make some income, she was essentially uninsured and at the risk of exploitation. Like many others, she soon had to flee the country as the courts decided for her imprisonment. The loss of economic vitality has been even more jarring for women whose husbands are political prisoners, forced to become the sole breadwinners while also facing exclusion from work. Many women have moved back to their family homes in smaller cities and towns to live with their parents. Describing her life as after being dismissed from her job, Fatosh notes that many, and I quote, "Many of our friends emptied their homes, moved in with others, or returned to their family homes. Among those who have returned to their families, there is a majority of women who had once established independent lives for themselves. We women lost our freedom in this process. It is also highly likely that a KHK status will have an intergenerational impact on women's ability to participate in higher education, therefore have access to better paying jobs." Botosh also said she had 2 children at the time of her dismissal, a daughter in high school and one who was a toddler. Her older daughter had been preparing for the college entrance exams, which determines one's future in Turkey, even more than like the SAT or something here. And she said that she learned to not ask for much. Fatosh says, "The exam prep books are expensive and impossible for us to purchase. My daughter goes to a public school and she needs extra tutoring. I don't know how to provide that. Even if we were to figure that out, what about her food and commuting costs?" All in all, the repressive political climate combined with the lack of support or accommodations for women in the workforce makes for a dismal picture of equality in Turkey. And to wrap it up, unfortunately, unless these broader structural and cultural issues are addressed, any specific developments will be insufficient to bring about gender equality in work and employment.
Ms. Ago, that was a very informative presentation. Now we will have Ms. Ebru Çelik, and she will be speaking in Turkish, and I will be translating for her consecutively. Ms. Çelik worked as a teacher in Istanbul for 2 years after her graduation from university. She then began to organize programs for innovation for women and children at a local foundation. After the 2016 coup in Turkey, when many civil society organizations critical of the government were shut down, Ms. Çelik's organization was also labeled as a terrorist organization. Neither she nor any of the other employees could work in Turkey any longer. Ms. Çelik and her family sought asylum in Greece in May 2018, where she currently resides. She spent her first year in Greece learning German to be able to relocate to Germany and find a job as a preschool teacher. When this didn't work out, she redirected her efforts to learning Greek and learning in and enrolling in IT programs. And for the past year, she's worked as a software engineer at a Greek company. Ms. Çelik is also the Set Them Free representative of Greece. Set Them Free is a civil initiative which advocates for the arbitrarily imprisoned women and children in Turkey. The organization also leads programs to empower women refugees for their better integration into new societies. Ms. Çelik, you can start in Turkish and I will interpret.
Teşekkür ediyorum tanıtımınız için. Merhaba, ben Ebru. Kısaca bahsetmiş oldular. 15 Temmuz sözde darbe girişiminden sonra çalıştığım derneğin de kapatılmasından sonra biz de 2 yıl Türkiye'de hukuki haklarımızın bize geri verileceğine inanarak bekledik. Ama bu konuda ümitlerimiz tükendikten sonra çocuklarımızın geleceği ve büyüdüğü ülkenin orası olmamasına karar vererek Yunanistan'a ailecek geçmiş olduk.
So after the coup attempt on July 15, her husband and her children stayed in Turkey in hopes that the rule of law would come back and their rights would be given back to them. When they realized that this was not going to happen for the sake of the future of their children, they left the country.
Aslında hayat gayesi ülkesinin vatandaşlarına, kadınları ve çocuklara inovasyonla adamış bir insandım Türkiye'deyken. Ve bankaya para yatırma, demokratik hakkım olan yönetim karşıtı gösterilere katılma ya da devletin desteklediği bayanları, ev hanımlarının özellikle inovasyonunu destekleyen projeleri organize ettiğim gerekçesiyle terörist olarak ilan edildim.
She has devoted her life to the innovation of projects beneficial to women, and this was in fact what caused her labeling as a terrorist by the Turkish government. All she did was use her democratic rights of free speech to, for example, have an account at a specific bank, to organize projects for the sake of women, or to hold protests. These were what had her labeled as a terrorist by the government.
Yunanistan'a geldiğimizde burada tabii ki bazı zorluklar yaşadık. Örnek veriyorum, 2018 yılında gelmiştik. Oturum mülakatı olarak ilk tarih 2023 yılı Haziran ayı olarak vermişlerdi bize. Burada biraz prosedürler oldukça yavaş ilerliyor.
When she came to Greece with her family, they of course faced some difficulties, and she wants to talk about a few of those. The first was when they came in 2018, the interview for being able to attain residency, the interview date was given for 2023, 5 years later. So the bureaucratic process, which allows for resettlement, occurs very slowly in Greece.
Buradaki ekonomik hayatın zorluğuyla da tabii ki burada da yaygın olarak bazı durumlar söz konusu, hırsızlık gibi. İlk geldiğimiz ilk ayda bütün pasaportlarımız, yanımızda olan bütün paramız olmak üzere bütün her şeyimizi çaldırdık. Bu da bizim için çok büyük bir dönüm noktasıydı.
One of the primary economic difficulties that her family and she faced at their relocation is that thievery is very common where they moved, and everything that they had brought with them, all of their finances, their money, and their passports were all stolen at one time. And this was a very transformative experience for the family.
Sadece 200 euromuz vardı ve bir aylık ödemiş olduğumuz evimizin kirasını ödemiştik. Çok şükür ki. Onun dışında yani ileriye dönük bir hayal kurabileceğimiz bir şeyimiz yoktu. Ama ona rağmen Yunanistan'a ilk geldiğimizde ve yaşadığımız bunca zorluğa rağmen gerçekten şanslı olduğumuzu düşünüyorum.
After the robbery, all they had left in their pockets as a family was 200 euros, and the fact that they had paid 1 month's rent for their apartment. She says that they had nothing left to dream of for the future. But despite all these difficulties, she still thinks that she is lucky.
Çünkü burada ne yaşarsak yaşayalım çok daha huzurlu, hep beraber ve fikir özgürlükle alakalı bir kaygımızın olmadığını biliyorduk. Ve bu bizi gerçekten çok rahatlatıyordu.
Because she's lucky because no matter what sort of economic difficulty they experience as a result of being refugees in that country, they know that they no longer have any anxieties about their fundamental liberties, the liberty, their freedom of conscience and their freedom of speech.
Yani maddi zorluklar bir şekilde aşılabileceğine inandık. Çünkü Allah çok şükür sağlıklı insanlarız, çalışırız ve kazanırız diye düşünmüştük. Yani ilk geldiğimizde Türkiye ve Yunanistan'ı kıyasladığımız noktalar oldu.
They also still had hope because they assumed that financial difficulties would eventually be overcome. Both her and her husband were capable of working, and they thought that would help them overcome the financial difficulties. When they first came, they also compared Turkey to Greece in a number of ways.
Türkiye'nin belki binaları, otoyolları, ulaşım sistemi Yunanistan'a göre çok daha fazla gelişmiş gibi gözükebilir ama buraya geldiğimizde fikir açısından, demokrasi, hukuk ve düşünce açısından Türkiye'nin insanları ne kadar belirli bir kalıba sokmaya çalıştığını anlamış oldum. Belki biraz acı olacak ama insanların insan haklarını unutturmaya çalıştıklarına inanıyorum. Ve bunu sorgulamaya, kıyaslamaya dair tahammülleri olmadıklarını buraya geldiğinde çok daha iyi anladım.
When she first came, she made the comparison that the infrastructure in Turkey was perhaps much more expansive, the roads, the buildings, but what they had in Greece was democracy and the rule of law and the freedom of conscience. In fact, she believes that after that relocation, she understood that Turkey so severely restricts people's rights that it almost makes them forget that they have those rights in the first place and represses them to the point of not being able to question what those rights are.
Kendime gelmem açıkçası biraz zaman aldı. Normalleşmek için bayağı bir çaba harcadım. Belki burada yaşadığımız kötü olayların etkisiyle de olabilir. Film izlerken insanların davranışlarıyla kendi davranışlarımı kıyasladım. Nasıl tepkiler veriyorlar normal insanlar? Ben nasıl olmalıyım? Bunu çok kez kıyasladığımı hatırlıyorum. Müzik dinleyip çılgınlarca bağırdığımı hatırlıyorum. Normalleşme çabası içerisinde. Ve bu dönemde bana en büyük desteği Setten Free sağlamıştı ki birazdan size nasıl olduğunu ifade etmeye çalışacağım.
In the process of adjusting to a new life, a new language, and a new culture in Greece, she admits that she faced a lot of difficulties, at least psychologically. She remembers comparing her own reactions to the reactions of people that she watched in movies to be able to judge to be able to judge what was normal and how she was reacting. In the same manner, she remembers yelling as she listened to music to be able to readjust. And her biggest support in adjusting to Greece was the organization Set Them Free.
Burada bir psikoloğun yanında bulunuyordum. Türkçe konuşabilen Türk birisi. Ben yanındayken Set Them Free ekibinden bir arkadaş onunla temasa geçmişti. Buradaki Türk mülteciler için neler yapılabileceğini sormak için. Çok büyük bir tesadüf ki benim için. Ben de oradaydım.
The period when she was first in Greece, she also had contact with a psychologist in Greece who knew Turkish, and a representative from Set Them Free had contact with that psychologist. The Set Them Free representative was asking what could best be done to help the female refugees in Greece, and by luck, Ms. Ebru Çelik was also there.
Eski tecrübelerimden ya da alışkanlıklarımdan olsa gerek ki hemen mevzuya dahil oldum ve buradaki Türk mülteciler için neler yapılabileceğini, kadınların ve çocukların burada neler ihtiyacı olduğunu gerçekten listeledim denilebilir. Ve sonrasında burada haftalık her pazar saat akşam 21'de başlayan alanında uzman kişilerle psikoloji serileri buradaki bayan mülteciler için Zoom online olarak başlamış oldu.
Because of her prior experiences in women's innovation in Turkey, she felt the urge to participate in Set Them Free programs. And in fact, soon afterwards, she essentially created an expansive list of what the needs of women and children refugees were. And soon afterwards, they started a Zoom series with Set Them Free. It was called a psychology series with experts in their field talking to women.
Alanında uzman insanları dinlemek, birilerinin sizi düşündüğünü hissetmek, size değer verdiğini görmek insanı gerçekten çok mutlu ediyor. Ben de kendime onunla beraber değer vermeye başladım. Çünkü Türkiye'de biz uzun yıllarca gerçekten çok fazla değersizleştirilmiştik. Kendimizi buraya geldiğimizde de bir işe yaramaz, başarıyı elde edemez. Ya da yaptığı şeyler yani çok affederseniz bir çöp hükmünde, ehemmiyetinde olan başarısız insanlar gibi hissediyordum.
The fact that they were able to listen to experts helped the people see that there was value in them. They felt recognized by seeing that people were willing to listen to them and interact with them and devise programs for their empowerment. And Ms. Ebru Çelik says that seeing this also helped her recognize that she herself had value because when they were in Turkey, they had been so severely devalued and labeled as worthless that she had begun to internalize these messages. It had come to a point where she saw herself as worthless, saw herself as being incapable of doing any quality work.
O psikoloji serilerinden sonra biraz kendime gelip toparlandıktan sonra daha cesaretlendim. Benim ihtiyacım olan şeylerin aynı zamanda buradaki diğer insanların da ihtiyacı olduğunu düşünerek bayanlar ve çocuklarla alakalı burada bazı organizasyonlar yapmaya başladım. Bunlardan bazıları Set Them Free desteğiyle beraber yaptığımız Sisters Without Borders diye ifade ettiğimiz bayan mültecilere ve çocuklara yönelik dil dersleri, Almanca, İngilizce ağırlıklı olmak üzere dil sınıfları açılmış oldu.
After these psychological series, which helped her feel more confident and braver about the empowerment of women, she started several organizations and several programs with women in Greece for their personal empowerment. Some of these were with Set Them Free, others were not. One such organization was the Sisters Without Borders, which began to offer language courses for recent refugees in German and in English.
Daha sonra bunları conversation class partnerlikleri, gönüldaşlık takip etmiş oldu. Ben de bir Set Them Free öğrencisi olarak dil derslerinden İngilizce derslerine katıldım. Damien hocamızın anlattıklarıyla normal hayattan bahsettikleri hikayelerle normalleştim. Amy, benim conversation partnerimdi. Onunla haftalık görüşmelerle kendime değer vermeye başladım. Çünkü o bana çok değer veriyordu. Böylelikle İngilizcemi ilerletmiş oldum.
These language courses soon shifted and transformed to become conversation classes between a couple of people, and they were based on friendship and genuine bonds with one another. She also started one of these conversation classes with a teacher called Damien, and she says that not only did this help her expand her English, but it actually made her feel more normal, more human. By being able to see that there was a person who valued her, she was able to value herself.
Böylece Settem Free sayesinde buradaki bayanlarla beraber hem birbirimize umut kaynağı, hem kader ortağı, hem de birbirimizin kahramanlık hikayesi ya da ideali olmaya başladık.
With the help of Set Them Free, the refugee women in Greece were able to offer each other hope and heroism. They became each other's heroes and advocates.
Maalesef Yunanistan'da dil öğretimi için, yani özellikle Yunanca için devlet desteği veyahut yönlendirmesi, bir danışmanlık vesaire gibi hizmetler yok. Burada gönüllü olan bazı dernekler var. Oralara gidip üye olduğunuzda ücretsiz derslere katılabiliyorsunuz.
Unfortunately, in Greece, there is no government support or funding for the language education courses, which are vital for the empowerment of women, which is why refugee women have to rely on NGOs to do that work.
Bu anlamda da bu kursların da yani seviye sınavlarının tarihlerinin belli olmaması, insanların gönüllü olarak oraya gitmiş olması vesaire falan gibi nedenlerle kursların süreci çok uzun ve yavaş ilerliyor açıkçası.
Because NGO work is based on, and the language courses that they offer are based on volunteerism, the process is at times disorganized and generally both very slow and very long.
Bu yüzden maalesef belki utanarak söylemem gereken Yunancam bu anlamda çok kötü. Yaklaşık 4 yıldır Yunanistan'da yaşıyorum. Ama yani katıldığım diğer organizasyonlar sayesinde İngilizce olarak Yunanistan'da şu an bir işte çalışıyorum. Her ne kadar eskiden kalma belki travmalarım neticesinde yargılanma dürtüsü belki de buna sebebiyet olan, şu an sizin karşısında İngilizce konuşamasam da İngilizce olarak çalışıyorum.
She is embarrassed to say that her Greek isn't perfect because of the structure of these language courses, but she has enough English to be able to work at a software company in Greece because of her, based on her traumas back in Turkey and because of the fear of being judged. She says that she is unable to speak English in front of us today, but that she works in English.
Yani burada bazı normalleşme sürecinden sonra entegrasyon süreci başlamış oldu bizler için. Ve entegre olmamızın da en önemli noktası dil öğrenmek ve bu konuda kendimizi ifade edebilmekti.
After the process of adaptation necessarily comes the process of integration into a new society, and that integration must be based on learning the language.
Mesleki, yani aldığım eğitime daha yakın olduğu gerekçesiyle bazı araştırmalar yapmıştık ve Almanya'da kreş öğretmenliği gibi bir ihtiyaç olduğunu öğrendiğimizden dolayı yaklaşık 1 yıl boyunca Almanca çalıştım ve Almanya'ya ailecek konsolosluk aracılığıyla iş bularak gitme gibi bir hayal kurmuştuk.
She had a dream when she first moved to Greece and based on her research that she could be a pre-K teacher in Germany. And because of this dream and based on her contact with embassies, she studied the German language for her first year when she was in Greece.
Yaklaşık 10 ay sonra B1 sertifikasını aldım Göte Enstitüsü'nden ve oradaki bazı araştırmalar sonrasında dil seviyesinin C1 olması gerektiği ve bazı daha uzun sürecek prosedürleri öğrenmiş olduk. Tam da bu karantina dönemine denk geliyordu. Ve karantina döneminin de bizim için bazı zorlukları vardı.
And right around when the pandemic first hit, they realized that the Germany dream was not going to be able to be realized because of long procedures and language requirements. And because this was right in the middle of the pandemic, that also brought along its own difficulties.
Yani dünyanın ne olacağını bilmezken bizim de tabii ki yani bu konuda gerçekten çok fazla etkilenmiştik. Çünkü hayatımızın ortasına gelmişken sıfırlanmış olan hayatımız bir daha bir bilinmezlikle karşılaşmıştık ve ekonomik kaygılar bizim için çok büyük bir unsur olmuş oluyor. Bu yüzden bu dönemde biraz daha global, yani hangi ülkede olduğumuzu fark etmeden iş bulabileceğimiz ve çalışabileceğimiz bir meslek arayışında bulunmuş olduk ve bir IT alanında software QA engineer olarak çalışmak için bir bootcamp'e katılmış oldum.
They were very severely impacted by COVID. Not only had their life been reset after relocation to Greece, but it had been reset one more time because of the COVID pandemic. It was causing a lot of economic anxieties for their family, and so they had to start thinking more globally. Instead of caring about specific countries, they were looking for jobs in which they could work anywhere at any time. And for this reason, she started in a boot camp for software engineering.
Karantina benim için çok hızlı geçti çünkü gerçekten çok dolu bir şekilde o bootcamp'e çalışarak yani bu alanda daha onun dışında bir eğitimim olmadığı için kendimi yetkin bir hale getirmeye çalıştım. Ve daha sonra birkaç staj başvurusunda bulunup staj yaptıktan sonra Atina'da bazı şirketlere iş başvurusunda bulundum. Benim için çok zor bir süreçti. Yani interview'de dizlerimin titrediğini ve galiba deprem oluyor dediğimi biliyorum. Gerçekten benim için zor bir zaman zarfıydı.
The quarantine passed by as she was working for the boot camp. She quickly became efficient and capable in software engineering and started applying, and after a series of internships, started applying for jobs in Athens. The interview process was perhaps the most difficult for her because she remembers her knees trembling and thinking that an earthquake was about to happen as she was in those interviews.
Ve şu an yaklaşık 1 yıldır Atina'da bir şirkette software QA engineer olarak çalışıyorum. Çok şükür bir maaşım var, vergi verebiliyorum herhangi bir Yunan vatandaşı olarak ve burada artık normal bir şekilde yaşayabiliyoruz.
For the past year, she's been working as a software engineer at a company in Greece. She's very grateful that now she's being paid a salary and she's able to pay taxes like any other Greek citizen.
Belki kendimle alakalı bu kadar detaylı bir şeyler anlatmış olmam sizi rahatsız etmiş olabilir, sıkmış olabilir. Ama bunu anlatmamdaki sebep aslında şuydu.
You might be bored or unable to understand why I'm giving so many personal details about my life, but the purpose of me telling you this is.
Şimdilerde beni tanıyan ya da yaşadığım süreci bilen insanlar benim geçirdiğim bu zamanda başarı hikayesi ya da evet belki kısaca ifade etmek gerekirse bir başarı öyküsü olarak bakıyorlar.
People who know me now call what I've lived through and where I am now a story of success.
Aslında gerçek olan ya da benim diğer insanlardan tek farklı kılan sadece ciddi mücadeleci olmuş olmam ve belki de yorulduğumu umursamamamdı.
In reality, what made this a success story was that I fought very hard and disregarded the times that I felt fatigued and worked despite it.
Ben yani Yunanistan mültecilerin çoğunun uğradığı bir yer Avrupa ülkeleri içerisinde. Burada insanlara bazı imkanlar gerçekten sunulduğunda kendi ayaklarının üzerinde durabilecek, kendi ailelerini, evlatlarını geçindirebilecek ve belki bir anne olarak, bir baba olarak evlatlarının karşısında dik durabilecek, onları utandırmayacak ya da mağdur etmeyecek şekilde kendilerini gösterebileceklerine inanıyorum.
Many refugees stop at Greece before relocating to other countries in Europe. When opportunities are given to these refugees so that they can be empowered, so that they can economically support their families, so that they can offer their children what the children want, I believe that they will be able to prove themselves.
Ben diğer insanlardan çok daha zeki, çok daha başarılı, çok daha ayrı bir insan değilim. Çok standart bir insanım. Bunu ben yapabildiysem herkes yapabilir diye düşünüyorum ve insanların hayatını değiştirmek için belirli yerlerde olan insanların bu inisiyatifi almaları gerektiğine inanıyorum.
I am not, she says, I am not any smarter, any better, or even more unique than other refugees or other people that are in Greece. In fact, I am quite a standard, ordinary person. She believes that if she can do something, so can everyone else. So long as people who are there offer refugees the initiatives and the opportunities that they need.
Eğer fırsat verirseniz bence birçok insan Avrupa Birliği'ndeki birçok devletin normal kendi halkı gibi çalışıp o devletlere vergi vermek için gayret edecektir diye düşünüyorum. Teşekkür ederim.
If you give people the opportunity, they will show that they can work and pay taxes like any other European Union citizen. Thank you so very much for listening to me. Thank you, Ms. Ebru, for sharing your story. That was very impactful. And I personally want to say that you should never, ever feel ashamed. And we would have loved to have you speak in English too, but we appreciate your Turkish as well.
Thank you.
So we will move on to, we don't have much time left, but we will move on to a Q&A session very briefly. So let me look through the chat for a second. Ms. Agu, there's a question for you. What are some steps that can be taken to resolve this issue from outside of Turkey?
I think this is a great question. I would say that acknowledgement is the first step towards resolving an issue like this. And I think the people who are here today and people who are going to be watching this recording later on, I think that's already an incredible first step, you know, for you to be involved in something that's not maybe directly related to your country or your origins, and for you to, you know, put in the time and effort to watch and, you know, listen and to inform yourself. I think that's an incredible first step. And after that, you know, we could possibly discuss what governments and institutions can do to be, you know, combating this discrimination. But, you know, in general, I think being aware of our surroundings and attempting to, you know, be more attentive in our actions would be the best possible practice.
Thank you, Ms. Badia. I would also like to add that there are several NGOs and other nonprofit organizations that help empower Turkish women, whether they be inside or outside of Turkey. Advocates of Silence Turkey, the organizer of this panel, is one of them. Set Them Free, the organization that Ms. Çelik is a representative of, is another one of these organizations that use a lot of the money that is donated to them directly to empower women. Ms. Karagöz, you had mentioned in your speech that there is a difference in the activity of Greek men in the household, in caretaking, in comparison to women. What do you think accounts for this difference, and what does Turkey need to do to get to that sort of gender equality?
Yeah, and the Greece is so like the Turkey, you know, and the neighborhoods country, and the same time is the, you know, the mailing cultural typics in the looking the same. And but I then got in there is the yeah, and I was the things, a lot of things different. especially in the street. A lot of time at the shopping center, at the maybe coffee center is the boss generally man, the woman, and sometimes the you go to the playground for the children. Baby care generally man that is the you look for the baby at the street. A lot of time the share is the home organization, is the maybe cleaning, maybe washing machine, is a lot of time. And again the differences is the maybe is the some of the things the curious is the the motor career. You can look the woman is the generally young woman in the Greece, but this job is generally is the man job in the Turkey. You look the paper in the newspaper, you look the yemek sepeti career, all time is the man. In there, because why? Because not safety job in this journey in Turkey. Because you go to the home generally, and as a woman go to a home, it's not safety. But at the Greece, this is a safety. This is so big differences. And the same time, the very different as the cultural things in the Greece. Is the generally whole street is the go to the freely and the walk around, is maybe go to the sport center, is go to the playground center. As a woman, is the feeling is so safety. Yeah, at the night again. But generally at get at the job is the woman at the Greece. Is the maybe Ebru is the like the woman everywhere. Maybe social organized at the high is the pollution. There are the women in the Greece generally, but it's the same pollution in the Turkey generally man. And the woman so powerful at the Greece generally is because the woman get the money, and because the woman gets a maybe high position at the Greece. But in the Turkey, maybe you can be a teacher, you can be a maybe nurse. A typical woman job in the Turkey. Because what is a typical woman job? But maybe high degree position is maybe is the maybe academics position sometimes. Maybe give a lesson at the university, but is the after there, nay. Generally is the after day, man continue. Man open the door in the Turkey. It's so different. So different is that I'm feeling really and the freedom at the Greece as a woman. Really safety at the city, in the Greece generally. But in the Istanbul, very chaotic, very manship, and the man city in the Istanbul generally.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is that for political and economic norms to shift, there needs to be a huge cultural transformation in Turkey, but also at the same time, cultural transformations reinforce the economic power of women. I really like that you emphasized the safety that you feel as a woman in Greece.
Yeah, safety is important, I think that. Because of the political reasons, again, the effect is the same idea. Because at the Greece political man or the woman generally, give maybe a spare for the woman, open the spare. But in the Istanbul, or maybe other Turkey city is not.
Ms. Ebru Çelik, I will ask a question in English and then I will translate in Turkish as well. But you mentioned that there are language courses that organizations offer in Greece. Are there other initiatives that would be helpful to empower women? And I'll ask it in Turkish as well. Ebru Hanım, Yunanistan'da özellikle dil eğitim kursları olduğundan, bunların da kadınları kalkındırma adına çok önemli olduğundan bahsetmiştiniz. Buna benzer farklı inisiyatiflerin, yani çok önemli olduğunuz farklı inisiyatifler var mı? Yoksa en temelinde dil mi?
Açıkçası şöyle, yani Yunanistan'da devletin burada insanların entegrasyonuyla alakalı bir danışmanlığı da yok. O yüzden buradaki herkes başkalarının tecrübeleriyle bilgi edinmiş oluyor. Bu yüzden yani kendi adıma şöyle söyleyebilirim. Solidarity diye bir dernek vardı. Hukuki olarak bazı zorda kaldığımız durumlarda ve dil desteği olarak destek aldığımız. Onun dışında ben kendi alanımla alakalı, IT alanımla alakalı başka bir derneğe daha üye olmuştum. Ama oradan tam olarak bir destek alamadım. Çünkü orada ben işe başlamıştım. Ama böyle meslek edindirme şeklinde de mesleki eğitim anlamında da bazı dernekler var. Mültecilere yardımcı olan bir ifade edebiliriz zannediyorum.
So she says that, like she mentioned in her speech, there is almost no support from the government with regard to integrating or helping new refugees to adjust. And their primary source of empowering each other and empowering themselves is learning from one another's experiences. There were several foundations that offered them support. So for example, there was a foundation called Solidarity Foundation, which offered legal support when they needed it. And there are also several NGOs which provide education about work opportunities, which is also very helpful for the empowerment of women.
Bir şey eklemek istiyorum sadece burada. Bazen derneklerin veya belki bunlar bireysel şeyler olabilir ama insanların mülteci olduğu için bazı mesleklerini yapamayacağına ya da yapmaması gerektiğine inanan insanlarla da karşılaştım. Yani belki bunu da ifade etmek doğru olduğunu düşünüyorum. Yani bir insan eğer mülteci olmuşsa, yani hayatını sıfırlamışsa, ona uygun meslek grupları garsonluk olabilir, belki işte çöpçülük olabilir, bazı meslek grupları olabilir. Ama daha ekonomik olarak daha fazla kazanabileceği ya da yetkinliği olduğu halde onu yapabileceği meslek gruplarına bence dernekler de mültecileri o eğitimi verirken belki emin olamıyorlar. Belki bu bizim problemimiz. Yani belki kendimiz kötü tanıtıyoruz. Bilemiyorum ama böyle bir yön var.
There's an aspect of foundations that she thinks is very, very important to mention. And it's that at times foundations that do provide work training or other sorts of training have a prejudice or a bias against refugees, in the sense that they believe if someone is a refugee, if they've reset their entire lives, they're only good for jobs such as being a waiter or a waitress or being a trash collector, even if that person is qualified for other sorts of jobs which might bring them more economic empowerment and help them support their families. So the bias that foundations have also needs to be overcome in economic empowerment. Well, thank you very much to all of our guests on the Zoom meeting and also on the YouTube live link who have watched us today. We appreciate all of your attendance and your questions. And thank you to all of our panelists who made the time to be here despite time differences today. That's all we have prepared for you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.